Focal concern theory. Let's talk about that. Okay, so this theory was developed in 1962 by a criminologist named Walter B. Miller. I won't ask you any of this on any exam or anything, what his name was, but Miller came up with a number of focal concerns that people living in a lower class or uh, impoverished community tend to adhere to rather than the dominant middle class values of the larger society. So, going back just a minute. So he posits that citizens living in a disorganized, deteriorating underclass community are more likely to obey the rules of the street than they are the values of the larger dominant society. So, whereas we tell our children to delay gratification, meaning get what you can get right now, you go to college, you get a degree, you get a good job, and then you can have all the finer things in life. But you don't drop out of school. You don't start selling drugs. You don't engage in delinquency and deviancy to get what you need or what you want. So that's how we raise our children according to middle class values. But when people are living in a very desperate economic situation, they're not necessarily thinking about obeying the law when you don't have heat in your house, so you don't even have a decent place to live, you don't have food in your belly, you don't have decent clothing in the wintertime, a pair of boots or a coat that keeps you warm. So there are a lot of kids that grow up in these communities, and oftentimes this kind of economic desperation creates these subcultural groups, or what they might call gangs or delinquent gangs. So this is what Miller looks at. So there are a number of lower class focal concerns, and on the next slide, it kind of talks about that. So I'm just going to go through these very quickly. When you and what he's suggesting is, and he's looking primarily at young men that join gangs, and these are the rules of the street by which they live. So the first is trouble. Being able to handle trouble gets you respect from your peers. So the trouble that comes from law enforcement, the trouble that comes from authority figures, including your parents. If you're able to handle that, then you get respect. Toughness, being admired for your physical strength, your fighting ability or athletic skill. So you want to be the more dominant of your group. You want to be able to show how tough you are. Being smart. Now, I'm not talking about book smart. I'm talking about street smart. So being able to outcon or outsmart others, especially the law. And then there's excitement, living on the edge, seeking fun and excitement to cope with a drab existence. When all you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis is trying to survive, trying to scrape by, a decent amount of, just a decent amount of food to eat, scraping by just enough money to keep the lights on, the gas on. I mean, every day is nothing but pressure. Every day, you're just struggling to survive until the next day. That's a drab existence for a lot of these kids. And they sometimes grow up in broken homes. They grow up with parents that may have drug or alcohol issues. So as a result of that, they're looking for fun. So they seek excitement. Fate. These kids have a very melancholy way of looking at life. They basically are aware of their own mortality. They see death and destruction every single day. They see people being killed. They see people going to prison. So for them, they believe that your fate, your future depends on luck, good fortune, or forces beyond one's control. So you might find some of these young people saying, it's just how it is. We all gonna die someday. You just got to get it while you can. I mean, these kind of fatalistic views of life that they tend to embrace. And then autonomy. What's so important to these kids sometimes is being independent of authority. The authority of your parents, the authority of your teachers, and the authority of law, officers of the law enforcement.